We're here today to talk about the PSAT and about the SAT, and I'm going to start by talking a little bit about why we're doing what we're doing. And then I'm going to outline the ways that we're going to go about preparing, and I'm going to go section by section and give you guys strategies that'll help now, it'll help on the PSAT, and it'll help on the SAT. All right? So let's start with why the SAT in general. Okay? The current system goes something like this. You guys are in school, for 3-4 years. You're taking a lot of tests. You're working hard. If you're in this class, you're serious students. Getting a lot of good grades, demonstrating the kind of student that you are, right? When it comes time to apply to college, they're going to look at all that. That's your GPA. Every test that you took, probably 600 is the estimate I made, like 150 a year or something like that, right? And then on the other side of the scale, they're going to look at just one number, a number on some, meaningless standardized test. And like the rabbi said, is this the best system? Probably not. Would we design the system like that? No, definitely not, right? But for me, I don't run the system. I don't make the system. I'm just someone who has identified an inefficiency, which I think poses an opportunity for all of us. If one test is going to be given so much weight, a disproportional amount of weight, then obviously let's apply whatever amount of energy we can towards that test, boost that score, and change our futures. It's going to matter for college, and again, is college the be-all, end-all? No, it's not. Is it the case that you can't make money if you don't go to the best college? Obviously not, right? But it's an easy opportunity, so that's why we're here. My goal is to help you get started on that path now, lead you to a strong PSAT score, possibly scholarships, and then a stepping stone to a great SAT score. All right? Cool. So let's start with the breakdown of the SAT. The SAT is out of? 1,600. Okay, good. So everyone's 1 for 1 on the questions. And that could be further broken down into? 800, 800. Well, they call this is just, you should know, ERW, English Reading Writing, and this is math. Could we break down this 800 again?
Grammar.
Okay, 400, or actually they do it 40, but 40 is 400. And 40, and what is it? 40 what? Good, wow. Or David Menage, reading comprehension, and then grammar. Right off the bat, you notice a little bit of an inefficiency and inflection point. This section, 65 minutes. We all remember that section, right? The reading, we'll talk about that in a second. And then you have the grammar, 35 minutes, right? So 65 minutes, 35 minutes, and yet they're worth the same amount of points. So minute for minute, right? Which section are the questions worth more? Grammar. Okay, cool. So maybe that'll inform some of our strategy. Math broken down into calc and no calc and calc. This time, not evenly weighted. Not evenly weighted. So there's 20 questions here and there's 35 questions here. The calc is worth more than the no calc. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So we have the breakdown of the test. Let's go section by section and just talk about how we could go about thinking about each of these sections, okay? Reading comprehension. Show of hands, you'll give me answers. When you took the PSAT, give me some of your reflections on that section.
If you're familiar with the topic of the story, you'll be able to read it and comprehend the story much better.
Great point, Gindi. If you're interested, much better. And the flip side of his coin is, if you're not interested, beware. Right? Okay, go ahead. What's your name? Eti.
I feel like it's not exactly worth it to read over in detail over the actual material.
Right, some idea about, there has to be some kind of strategy that's more efficient than trying to read and understand every word.
I never finished.
Good, so a second thing, time issues. Time issues on reading, common issue. Gindi, give me a second. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Common issue is not being able to read the last story or last two stories with full effort like you do for the first.
Right, not having the same energy. Go ahead.
Well, actually, just today we learned about annotating history, so maybe we should, not focus as much on some parts of the article that we think are unimportant, and then focus on the ones that we do think are important.
Okay, good. That's an intense strategy, but yes, Manaj?
Some people say read the questions beforehand and then reread, because any information that doesn't apply to any question.
Okay, good. So similar to the we're getting very strategic, but I just want, we're going to get into the strategies, but I just want first impressions at doing the reading section. Go ahead.
One of the questions is just between lines 16 to 24, what happens? So you're that's.
I hate those.
No, you guys hate the ones where you go back.
This
Yeah.
from these
Okay, good.
Oh my god, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Okay, so we're starting to identify. We're starting to identify different question types. The first question type that a lot of you identified is the double question. Question 1, asking you a question. Question 2, asking you for lines. That question is going to be 20 out of the 52. And the fact that there are different question types is going to be a big part of our strategy. Okay, good. I'm missing some of the more basic observations, though, when taking the test. Yeah. Right, major fatigue. Good. Okay, how about this? I didn't hear much of this. Give me a second. Good. Different types of passages. Good. That's another great observation. How about this experience? You start off. It's the first section of the test. It's the PSAT last year, right? You start doing it. You read the first few lines. This is very boring. You read a little bit further. All right, I'm out. I'm not doing this. Put my head down. Peace. And then you it's the PSAT. It doesn't really count. PSAT. College, I heard you make more money not going to college. You start making crazy stories in your head. Maybe I'm not seeing so much nodding of head here. Maybe that's only Richter. Maybe that's a lower level experience. You guys are too elite for that. But there's some version. But there's some version of this experience that you are experiencing. Some version, meaning there's something that you hit something that's hard and you take the foot off the gas a little bit. You're getting tired. A lot of you mentioned that later in the passage, right? Okay, so we have that. What about this experience? You're reading a passage. You're in the middle of reading the passage. You're going through. All of a sudden, like, you wake up from a haze. You're like, wait, was I just reading? Yeah. You go, okay. Let me go back to the beginning of the paragraph. You go back to the beginning of the paragraph. You go. Shoot, I just did it again. This is terrible. You go back. Again. Oh, my God. Right, you keep spacing out. Okay, so that's another common experience with reading. If I had to break down reading into two things, okay, the way to improve and the reason that you're having a hard-ish time with reading, and I don't want to say absolutes about this class, but we have limitations in our reading skills, and the extent of them might vary from person to person, limitations in our reading skills. And B is we have the strategies for the questions that could use work. So let's talk about our reading skills for starters. The reason that you're struggling with reading is because you don't read at all. This is what I would guess that most of you read. And there's some that, again, this is not true. You read Princess Diaries when you were a kid. You love reading now. Okay, but you read text messages, which I'm increasingly finding that the comprehension level on that is not really, I say something, and then it's completely misunderstood. So Instagram captions, you will read unless it's too long. If it's too long, I no longer read it, right? Okay. Instagram stories, the text on that, you will read. Again, unless there's too much text, and preferably if the text is flashing or moving in some way, then you'll read it. Right? So we have that. No, is that not the case? Like if I make an ad, I got to make the text bouncing. They put the arrows like sign up now, because otherwise you wouldn't even be able to find those words. Right? Okay, Schmoop you'll read. The day before the final, maybe. But even then, it might be the final's next period. You're reading through the plot summary, and you're still noticing, like, oh my God, I can't understand. I don't know what's going on. You're going again and again and again. Okay, so maybe that's not true about all of you. Maybe you'll read, Shakespeare when the teacher tells Hittery read Romeo's part. He'll read it out loud or something like that, right? But we're not doing, only Gindi likes that. He wrote a play, there you go. But even that, we're not doing as much reading as we can, right? So the more reading we do, the better. That's a long-term approach. I know they print the op-eds here. That's a good thing to read. If you do that, your reading will get better. And we'll try to make your reading better by having you reading full passages. The other issue is this reading is like 7 levels above the reading that you really should be doing at this stage in your life. This is really dense academic reading about science, which is good. In college, you will need to be able to. A lot of you I could see succeeding in an academic setting, and in that case, you do need to be able to read this level. But it's a stretch. It's not like giving it to you in your comfort zone. So I would recommend starting in your comfort zone and gradually inching up. But also, when we do SAT, we're going to have you read the passages and stuff like that, and that will definitely help. Okay. B is going to be this. Even if you don't know how to read, right, I could still get all of the questions on a passage right without reading the passage at all. A lot of times I prepare to teach you guys, right? I'm a busy guy. I wake up. It's the morning before the lesson. I'm doing a reading passage. I haven't read the passage yet. Okay, quickly in the shower. I bring in like my phone. I'm like scrolling through the passage, doing it speeding fast, like on my way. I'm reading it at red light. I could still go 10 for 10. Without reading the passage in like 6 minutes. I recently did a reading section in like 22 minutes on the train and got every question right. Okay. The reason I'm saying that is because there were really strategies that you could use outside of your ability to read to get questions right. And that's going to be by identifying question types, by understanding the rationale of the test makers. I always say, I used to, when I was your age, I loved taking APs for fun, so it makes sense that I'm in this position now. But I used to make them bring me AP books, and then I would just take the questions on the AP books without knowing the subject at all, and always outperform random guessing. I could tell from the choice types. I could get inside the test makers' heads. I used to just sign up for APs, any AP. Like your year, I signed up for like 6 of them. I would just show up to the AP, and I would just take them. I would get 3s, 4s. Then Euro, I signed up for senior year. I used to sleep during the AP as a challenge. Not as a challenge. I couldn't fall asleep, but I would tell myself I'm just trying to challenge myself. But then that one I got a 2 on. And AP Bio I also struggled with. But like I took Psych freshman year. I pulled a 5 on Psych freshman year. I pulled a 5 on World sophomore year. AP World I took sophomore year. I didn't study a word. There was not one multiple choice question that I got to where I said, oh, I know the answer to this. Not one. I got a 5. I wrote crazy essays. It's a long story. Okay, so the point of all of this is to flex a little bit, but 2, to show that there are strategies. I could train you as a test taker, and it will improve your score. Okay, good. So that's reading. We have become a better reader, develop strategy. Good. Section 2, grammar. I think grammar is the easiest section to improve on. Why do I think that? There's some simple rules that you don't know that I could teach you, and if you do know them, then you'll get the questions right. I'll give a couple of examples. Who, whom? Show of hands. How many know exactly when to use who, exactly when to use whom? Okay, some of you know when to use who and whom. For all the rest of you, I show it to you. You now know how to use it. Every other test that comes up, you get it right. Effect, effect, maybe that you know. Colons versus semicolons versus dashes. Tough. I don't really know when to use those. Okay, so we'll show you when to use those. You use them, you get points, right? So very, very easy to zero in on what it is that you don't know and to help you improve your score. That's going to be the story on grammar. Grammar also, how many of you have ever heard of this idea or ever thought of it? I was just talking to people that thought this, so I feel like I need to respond. It said you can't do better on the SAT. That's like an IQ test. There's no way to study, no way to improve, impossible. Okay, so no one agrees with that, fine. But fine. So
That's what the SAT was meant to be.
okay, we have some people that, right, that's what the SAT was meant to be, good. So we have some people that kind of agree. It's a hard test to get better at. It's minimal. Right, it's more of an IQ test. Okay, so some people don't agree with it, but some people do. So I just want to address the extent to which I think it's possible. I'm going to give you 4 proofs for why it's clear that you can improve your score. One was the who, whom example that I just gave. Obvious. If you did, and think about it with math. If you don't know how to do completing the square to find the vertex, then you don't get the question right. If I show you how to do it, and now you know how to do it, you get it right. Very simple examples like that. So that's A. B, I actually see the data. I work with, 600 students a year for the last 10 years. I'm working with students in this school, and Mag and David, and YDE, and HAFTR, and the city, and DRS, right? I'm working all over the place. Literally, you take a bunch of practice tests. The data comes, I download the data into Excel spreadsheets, and literally, I'm not playing with the data, nothing. Practice test 1, practice test 2, 40 points up. Practice test 3, 40 points up. Practice test 4, 40 points up. It's just a fact, the statistical fact from my now not so small sample size. Okay, average score increases, people that work with us, 250 points. So definitely I see it going up. I'll give you 2 proofs from current events and also just a chance to riff on some fun stuff. How many of you heard about the adversity score, the College Board's adversity score last year that was proposed? Okay, last year, College Board announces that they will, in addition to sending your SAT score to colleges, be sending a score that indicates how wealthy your high school is and the crime rate in your high school. Their intent, in your case, affluence high, crime rate very low. They don't consider cheating on finals criminal, nor do they consider vandalizing or whatever other, do you guys not vandalize?
So we have like 0.
So you guys have basically, you've never had crime. Right, so this would be bad for you. Now luckily, the intent was for them to penalize you for this fact because they're saying you guys have it too good, it was easy for you to do on the SAT. Now, why are they doing this? Because they correctly assessed that if you're in a wealthy community, like you are, A, they're going to bring in people like me into your school to help you prepare, and B, you're going to be able to afford people like me outside of school to help you prepare. It's a fact, though, that working with people like me is going to increase your score. Now, luckily, this rule was overturned. Obviously, it was controversial, and it's not taking place. But again, proof that definitely test prep works. And the fourth, I would say, is like Khan Academy, right? Why is it so important that there be free test prep available? The reason is because it's not fair to the poor people that can't afford it, and we need to make sure that test prep is available. Test prep works. We're going to be able to increase your score. Section 2 grammar, learn the grammar rules. Some amount of reading comprehension. We'll talk about that. You probably noticed that about 30% of the questions are actually comprehension questions, even in the grammar section. We'll talk about that in future weeks. Okay. Math. Math is like one of those hit or miss, right? Show of hands, how many of you is math your least favorite subject in school? Okay, only a few in this class, right? I remember when I was in school, I used to think that I'm not a math guy or something like that, right? I'm not a math guy, I don't like math, right? The good thing is that you really can improve at math, and math is not something innate to you. You're not born with math. Someone really has to show you how to do math, something that you're going to really have to work at. Now, our approach in teaching you math and in grammar and in general, I think very much resembles a sports practice. How many of you in here are on sports teams of any kind? Hands? Okay, good. If I had to break down what you worked on your sports teams into two primary categories, what would they be?
Skill and fitness. Like a skill at the actual
Okay, but give me even tighter categories.
Skill and sportsmanship.
This is what they tell Gindi. Gindi gets a sportsmanship award every year. They tell him, listen, man, you were a great sport. When I was little, I used to play in basketball tournaments, and, like, I'm a tiny guy. My hands weren't big. You know the guys where, like, the second he gets the ball, they go and, like, take it away from him. They just pull it right out of his hands. And I used to consistently get the sportsmanship award. I'm not a good sports. I have zero good sportsmanship. I get really ticked when I lose. There's no reason for me to get him. I think they give it to the worst guy in the tournament. But stunningly enough, I got to flex one more time. I actually went on a streak of winning 5 tournaments in a row. How did I do it? I went, first of all, you get put on a good guy's team, right? But B, I went to the best guy on my team and I said, listen, man, there's a guy on every team that's like me. This guy, if they throw him the ball, he's panicked. You'll immediately be able to take it out of his hands. And on every team, there's a guy like you who scores like almost all the points. Let's me and you take that guy. And let's leave that other monkey alone. Let them throw it to him. If they throw it to him, he's going to drop it immediately. I wouldn't even want to catch it. And I'm a bit of a ferocious guy, so we used to double team the best guy. I used to dominate. And I take credit. I think I'm the X factor. Maybe I'm delusional, but I do think that. Okay, so anyway, yeah, sports practice you want to help me with? Yes.
Training and technique.
I want, come on.
Skill and, like, endurance, being able to go for a long
The most basic. It's either I'm doing drills or I'm scrimmaging. So far, everyone I gave this to, I gave this example to like all the people. Drills, scrimmage. Let's go into the rationale here, and then we'll explain how it's going to apply here. Drills. Let's isolate the individual skills. Let's isolate the individual skills that you need and have you work on them consecutively, right? So instead of just playing a game where everything's all jumbled up as my only form of training, let me take 1,000 lefty layups. Just get the feeling of what that feels like, right? Let me take 1,000 three-pointers. Let me get the feeling of what that I'm currently taking table tennis lessons, which I know is weird. I know it's weird that I call it table tennis and not ping pong, but you guys are on the team now, right? And that I take lessons. Speak with me after class if you want to know where I go. But what I do is I drill just 1,000 forehands in a row, work on the form, and this is how I shoot them. Like, it's a real intense shot. And then I do the full games. Now, the full games the scrimmaging is completely different because when you're standing here and not expecting it there, it's a completely different shot. Now, let's bring it back to SAT. When you take a full practice test, the test is jumbled up like crazy, right? You don't know which question type you're hitting. You don't know, is this question want me to do completing the square or factoring? Does this question want me to do algebra or is that geometry? Is this a similar triangle question? This circle question, does that require me to remember those rules about central angles, or is this something about the area of the sector? I don't remember, right? Okay, I just threw out a lot of stuff.
The
Angle within the angle. I don't know. Inscribe, this and that. Okay, we don't know what this is. What's going on, right? So the way that I train you is I isolate the individual components. Let's work on 20 comma questions in a row. Let's do the area of a sector 20 times in a row. Let's get that familiarity. But then let me dump you into a scrimmage. And why do you need the scrimmage so badly? Why do you need that scrimmage? The fatigue that we all spoke about. Taking a 3-hour test is grueling. You need to get in there and take that 3-hour test. You need to see things mixed up. You need to be able to look at a test and break it down into its components in real time, right? So practice tests. Drills, practice tests, drills, practice tests. In addition, on our practice tests, which a lot of you have seen, is we have technology that we created that allows us to understand which area you're struggling with based on your performance. So you take a practice test. A lot of you have seen this, right? Take a practice test. I get a full report that says, okay, he's 0 for 3 on comma questions. Very clear. He doesn't know the rules of commas. He was 0 for 3 on the area of the sector. Very clear. He needs to work on that. The completing the square, that he knows. I don't need to waste any time teaching him that particular skill, right? And I could break it down. This is the equivalent of having in the gym a technology that says, listen, you missed 2 lefty layups. You also had an opportunity where you're supposed to drive right, but you settled for a step-back jumper. I'm getting that level of analysis. So this is like, I view myself as like high-tech sports training, very similar. This is a high-tech SAT training. That's what we're trying to do, okay? In terms of practice tests, just by a quick show of hands, how many of you are already signed up to work with us? You're coming in this Sunday for the practice test? Okay, a good amount of you are already coming in this Sunday. For anyone that's not currently signed up with us, I'm going to extend the invitation for all of you to come again this Sunday. We're going to review some sections of that practice test in class next week. We're going to work on the reading stuff so I could show you different strategies. So this Sunday, if you want to come to that, go to Ariel after class. He'll take a list, names, numbers. He'll send you that information. Definitely come to that practice test. Practice tests are statistically proven to be the most efficient way to increase your score. It's a great thing to work on. It'll get you working. It'll get you thinking about it. I'll give you back the practice test. You can review it on your own. It's definitely something that you should all do. Okay, so that's this Sunday. Definitely coming for that. So drills, practice tests. Affect, effect. Who knows when to use affect? Who knows when to use effect? Yeah, go ahead.
Affect is like when you're actually going to do something, someone's an action, and then the effect is like not an action.
Effect is a noun, effect, verb. That's the best way I think that I found to memorize it. Okay, he is affecting you. He is affecting you. It's something he's hitting you. He's punching you. He is affecting you. The effect of him punching you is this. The effect is this. He is right? Does that make sense? Everyone got that? Good? Yeah? A little unsure? We'll see some practice problems. It's. Quick. I think we all know this.
If you can change it to like it is, then it's
Apostrophe. Good. So usually an apostrophe is for possessives, right? So Morris is not a good example. David's D apostrophe S, right? Okay. Now with it, you would think that's possessive, right? So it's against the rules. But we also want to do a conjunction, so the conjunction goes ahead of it. Does that make sense? Okay. There. We know that. Yeah, go ahead. Place. Good. Okay. There versus its. Plural singular. Good. Okay. That's just a sidewall. Who, whom. Let's do who, whom. That's all. Let me just do this one. This is the best trick that I found to do who and whom. You ready? Let's look at the example. Who or whom wrote the letter? Okay. So let's say I have to write who wrote this letter or whom wrote this letter. I don't know what to put, right? So this is the way that I do it. You answer the question. So the question is, who wrote the letter? What's the answer to that question? He wrote the letter. If the answer is he, the right possessive is who. Okay, let's give another example. Well, another example. Who should I vote for? Who should I vote for? Him. The answer would be I should vote for him, not I should vote for he, right? I should vote for him. Him, whom. Does that make sense? Who should I vote for? You answer the question. The answer is that I should vote for him, whom. The answer is I should vote for he. It's not that. It would be who. Let's do another one. We all know who pulled that prank. Who pulled that prank? Mr. Rothbard pulled it. He pulled that prank. You pulled that prank. Listen. Plead the fifth. Yeah. Okay. Who pulled the prank? He pulled it, right? He. Who? What?
You could also say that him.
Who pulled the prank?
Him pulled the prank.
Him pulled the prank. Good. Read it into the sentence. He pulled the prank. Him pulled the prank? No. Gindi, there you go. Shut her down. I like that. No, I'm just teasing. Okay. Okay. We wondered who that book was about. Who is that book about? The book was about him. Whom? Okay, is that a good trick? That's great. Okay. It took me a lot of Googling till I was able to get that. I never knew that either. Okay, so hopefully just now I increased your score a little bit just from that alone. Than versus then, I think we know. Whose versus whose, I think we know. All right, let's run through this drill quickly. Okay, let me do the sentence. Like its closely related cousins, crocodiles. Crocodiles are its closely related cousins. Alligators. So its is a pronoun being used to replace the word alligators. Alligators, closely related cousins, crocodiles. Alligators are what? Plural. They're there. So like their closely related cousins, crocodiles, alligators. So the answer is their D. Yes, okay? So that's a sentence you'd have to break down. Number 5 is C. Good. Number 6? B. Who's good? Number 7? Good. Whom? Him. And then 8? Good. Beautiful. Okay, great. All right, let me quickly wrap with this. You ready? C. All right, cool. Let me wrap up. This time next year, all of you are going to start applying to college. 4 months later, you're going to start finding out where you get in. Now, like I said, where you go to college is not the be-all, end-all, but where you're going to spend the next 4 years is pretty significant. You guys have been in school for a lot of years, and I think one of the consequences of being in school, maybe not so positive, is you really lose the feeling of self-determination, meaning there's nothing that you could do that could really change your life. You're going to be in school every day in this building, no matter what. Maybe you have a couple more friends, maybe not, but there's not so much that you've had a chance to do until this point that would actually change. So much so that I don't even think you guys realize what change your life means, right? The crazy thing about being my age is that one day you're going to be able to look back and start seeing how decisions that you made actually impacted the person that you are in a certain moment. And the reason that I got into this is because I think that this is really one of those moments. I never thought that I was going to teach in a school at all. I never liked teachers. Teachers didn't like me. I was a very problematic child. So the way that I got into it was I went to NYU. I wanted to live in NYU. I told my dad, Dad, I'm dorming in NYU. He told me, nah, you pay then. He said no, but then I said, why? He goes, it's expensive. So, it's expensive? That's why? Okay, I'll pay. So I started teaching kids on the side, SAT. The kids were like 2 or 3 years younger than me, like Barry Sitt, Jackie Casson, Pardo. These guys are like, probably to you guys, older guys, They were 3 years younger than me at the time or something like that. I'm working with them. The program started in my house. No one used to prep in the community at all. We used to bring them in senior year for 4 consecutive days of 10 hours each. It was their first time taking the SAT in senior year, It was not a culture of prepping at all. Next thing I know, the scores start shooting up. Guys who I'm friends with, who are hanging out in my house, are coming to me, by the way, man, I got into BU, I got into Babson, I got in here, I got there. Next thing they tell me, I got this job, I got that job. Starting to change lives. The feeling's crazy, A few years ago, I finished college. I always thought I was going to go to law school. I got accepted to most of the top 10 law schools. And I realized I'm having such a good time, and also I genuinely feel like I'm making an impact. With you guys in particular, you guys could go to different colleges. You guys are going to have that option. And this test really is that starting point. So what I would say is take this seriously, push yourself. If we work with you outside of school, great. If we don't, I'm going to be here for another 3 weeks. I'm going to try to give you everything that I have in that short time to help you. And really, at the end of the day, it's in you. You are the ones that's the catalyst for this change. You're the one that's going to change your future. And it's going to be amazing.